Good morning again. Welcome to all of you who are here this morning in person, as well as those who are watching online. If you don't know me, my name is Andrew Kobe. I'm the Youth and Young Adults Coordinator here at Bow Valley Christian Church. And I get the opportunity to go to high school camp later at Pine Lake, which I'm pretty excited about. And I know this crowd over here is also pretty excited about it. We are in the middle of a summer series where we are looking at the fruit of the Spirit. And we are thinking through this fruit of the Spirit in the lens of what our world needs now, here in Canada in 2024. What does the world need? Well, today we are thinking about how we need joy in a world that seems to be filled with despair. I don't know if you've thought about this before, but our world is actually obsessed with joy. Our world is obsessed with feeling joy, with the concept of joy. Our world just loves happiness. Joy is what drives the marketing campaigns of millions of companies across the world. The promise of happiness when you use a product is one of the major ways that the companies can make a sale. In fact, in a study done earlier this year by the tea company Tetley, it was found that 94% of Canadians wanted more joy and happiness in their lives. This desire for joy in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, our search for joy in our own lives points to a creator that has created us for joy. I like the way one writer put it. He said, God's joy is in our blood. But yet, there is a disconnect. We feel it. I feel it. You feel it. 94% of us want more. That we desire to be happy, but yet we're not. In a continuation of this survey on happiness in Canada, Tetley asked respondents to rank their top focuses when it came to happiness. And I wonder this morning if we can maybe think to ourselves here in church, how many of these things do we rely upon for our own happiness? How many of these things that Tetley found resonate with us? Where are we finding our happiness in life? Number 5, the fifth highest thing that they found was that career growth was a aim for happiness. That maybe if only I had that job, I would be happy. Or if I received that promotion at work, then I could be happy. Number 4, which I'm surprised is not higher, finances. If only I had just $10,000 more, then I could be happy. Or maybe it's $1 million for you. If I could have $1 million, I would have all the happiness in the world. Maybe it's if I didn't have so much student debt, then I would be happy. Number 3, self-development. Now this is like skills or what you have accomplished. So maybe if I could just play hockey as good as Andrew, then I would be happy. Or maybe it's Connor McDavid. I don't know which one. If only I could play the guitar, then I would be happy. Number 2, physicality. If only I just weighed 20 pounds lighter. If only I could look just a little bit prettier, then I would be happy. And finally, the top one in Tetley's study is well-being. If only I had a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife, then that would lead me to happiness. If only my house had 2 sinks so I didn't have to fight with my spouse in the morning while getting ready, then I could be happy. How many of these resonate with all of us? The thing is, these 5 things, they're not bad. They're not bad in and of it themselves, but yet they fail to provide us the happiness that we search for. That all of these things, they may bring us joy, but they don't bring us the true source of joy that we desire in our inmost selves. Our hearts crave more than just a relationship or more than just more money. But yet we give in. We give in to these fleeting things. We grasp at them and then they're gone. Our money brings us happiness for a while until we lose it or it no longer is enough to satisfy our wants for material possessions. Our relationships, they can bring us happiness for a while until we lose our friends or they start to annoy us or they no longer serve us in the way that we want. We may be happy with the way that we look until we take off our makeup at night or we age and realize that maybe it's unsustainable. And so we grasp and we grasp and we grasp. And all the while, here we are falling further and further and further into the pit of despair, desperately hunting and looking in all of the wrong places to find joy in our lives. I mean, look around us. The mental health crisis is proof enough that we are searching for joy, but looking in all of the wrong places. That we are failing in our hunt for joy, and we desperately need help. The reality is that I don't think I have to tell you all this. I think you know it. That in your own lives, or at the very least in the lives of the people around you, you see this disconnect. You recognize it. Our world is obsessed with joy, but it's riddled with despair. Isn't this cheery to start a Sunday morning? Where do we go? What happens now? Well, as Christians, we believe that we have the answer to this problem of despair that we see in the world. And his name is Jesus. As Christians, we actually believe, it's fundamental to our beliefs, that there is a true source of joy that does not fade away. And it is found in the person of the Messiah that came 2,000 years ago. I think the best way that we can explain how Jesus is the true source of joy is through this theological concept of already but not yet. Or in other words, to explain that just a little bit, we are living in a time where Jesus has already come, that he's come 2,000 years ago, but yet he has not yet come again. He has not made his return. And so here we are, living in this time of already, but not yet. Just stick with me for a couple moments as we explore how this idea relates to joy. We'll start with already. Jesus has already brought joy into the world. In fact, it is this very reason that we celebrate at Advent every year. You know the verse. He brought good news of what? Good news of great joy for all people. Christ, in his time on earth, brought joy everywhere he went. Think about all of the miracles, for starters. Each of those illnesses healed, each of those demons cast out, each time he ate with tax collectors and sinners was just one more moment of joy brought to the people around him on earth. One could even frame Jesus' life as bringing joy to one person, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then so on and so forth, until, of course, his life ended in the greatest way that he could have brought joy, by dying on the cross, radically reversing what joy looks like in the world. While talking to his disciples right before he went to the cross to die, Jesus explained this reversal of joy. We read in John 16. It says this, "Very truly, I tell you, you, the disciples, will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy. A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. So with you, now is your time of grief, but I will see you again. And you will rejoice. And get this, no one will take away your joy. In that day, you will no longer ask me anything. Very truly, I tell you, my Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Until now, you've not asked. Ask, and you will receive, and your joy will be complete. In other words, Jesus is breaking down the emotions on the cross. That when he was sent to the cross to die, the world would have joy. The world would rejoice. That the world would rejoice at Jesus hanging up there on the tree. But on the third day, when Jesus rose again and the implications of what had just happened started to make themselves clear to the disciples and the rest of the followers of Jesus, they would be the ones to have joy. When they realized that Jesus had defeated death once and for all, and when they realized that the curtain in the temple had been torn in half, and that they would be able to experience direct communication with the Father, that they were not just reunited with their friend Jesus, but that they were called back into the Garden of Eden when God was face to face with Adam and Eve. Man, no doubt they would be filled with joy. Furthermore, we read that this joy was not just a temporary joy, but it would be a joy that no one could take away. That when Jesus died on the cross, he ended the separation of God and man for eternity. This is the reason that you and I can pray to God. This is the reason that we can cry out to him in our times of need. This is the reason why each of us can have a personal relationship with the creator of the heavens and the earth. Yet we know that even though we have joy, knowing that our sins are forgiven, and that we have a personal relationship with God, we could talk to him face to face, we know that Christ's work is not yet finished. That he is not done with the work in the world yet. We know this because we read in Revelation that there will be a time when Jesus will come back, that he will come and descend from his heavenly throne down to earth, and that he will return and bring full and complete joy once and for all for the rest of the eternity. End of story, full stop there. We read in Revelation 21, he will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. Man, I look forward to that time. I look forward to the day where there will be absolute joy for eternity. I look forward to the day when you and I reconnect and we praise our Savior all the day long. Indeed, Jesus is not done. He will return and bring permanent, unending joy to all of those who are followers of Christ. And so here we are. We're living in this time of already, but not yet. We are in between Jesus' coming and returning. And yet, even now, right now, Christ is still bringing joy to the world. And how does he do this? How does he bring joy to the world? Well, he does it through his bride, the church. That actually our job as a church is to bring joy into the world. Our job as a church is to make other people happy, to bring them, to offer them the true source of joy that we are so desperately seeking. It is so tempting in this world that we live in to focus on all of the bad things that are happening. The war and the pain and the suffering that is going on across the world. But let's not forget the joy that the church brings to the people around them. Let's, for a moment, just think of our church as a small sample size. Think of all that we've done over the past month with Hope Mission and the food drives that have happened. Think of all the joy that might bring people. Think of our street ministry who faithfully serve people downtown. I know many of you are just here on a Sunday morning, but in case you didn't know, all throughout the week, there are countless groups that meet in this building to bring joy. Groups that pack brown bags for kids who don't have food for lunch. groups that support those who suffer from Alzheimer's, groups that help those that suffer with addiction of any kind. I could go on and on and on about the impact that you are making in the world right now, about the impact that you are having in bringing joy to our city, to our country, to our world. There's no doubt in my mind that God is still bringing joy into this world today. I think it's here in this already but not yet mindset that we have as Christians, that Jesus has brought joy, Jesus will bring joy, and he is currently bringing joy to us right now. I believe if we have this mindset when it comes to the way that we live our lives, we will actually experience joy in our own lives. How? Well, I think it brings joy in 3 different ways. First way, I think it allows us the ability to make a difference. I remember a short while ago, me and Cassidy, my fiance, we were at a family gathering, and there were many people there who were non-Christians, who aren't yet following Christ. And inevitably, as it does at every family gathering for somehow, politics came up. And immediately, like it was instantaneous, there was this wall of discouragement. There was this wall of despair about the politics of the world. Nothing seemed to be good. Here, let me just share a few sentiments that came out of that conversation. The Canadian government falling apart. The American government is also falling apart. The world, dangerous place. There's always going to be someone out there looking to get you. Someone wants to take advantage of you. Debt, all-time high. Not good. Just not good. Young people, such as myself, basically have no chance to get out of student debt, afford a house, find a job that pays well enough to support themselves, their family, their future kids. Basically, the conversation ended in a consensus that the whole world is falling apart, people hate each other, and there's nothing that anyone can do to change that. Again, cheery conversation. But here's the thing. This is what's so great about being a Christian, is that we don't believe that we are powerless against this. That we don't believe that we are powerless when it comes to the despair in the world. That actually, when we have an already but not yet mindset, it gives us power to act. That we believe that we are partnering with an eternal God who has ultimate power in this world. That we believe that we are partnering with the God who did bring joy and will bring joy and is bringing joy. Earlier this week, me and Cassie were watching a thunderstorm roll in, and I couldn't help but reflect on the power of God as I watched the lightning strike and the thunder roar. This same power is at work in the world around us as we are called into action. We are called into action to bring joy. That actually this already but not yet mindset pushes us into action. It calls us to a higher thing. It calls us to do something about the lack of joy we see in the world. This is why all those groups meet, because they have felt that push. I wonder where God's pushing you to act this morning. I think more than just physical action, we also have the ability to cry out to a good God when we see the despair is present in this world. That we have the ability to lament to God the things of this world that are unjust and unjoyful. I myself have been on a journey of lament in my own life, as I noticed earlier this year a tendency to hyperfixate on all of the things that are wrong in this world. And if I could just share a bit of that through my journey of lament, through my journey of crying out from the depths of my heart, God, why don't you fix this? Something has changed. That I've begun to find a lasting, incredible freedom and joy. That instead of the despair that I would hyperfixate on, God has opened my eyes. He's helped me tune my eyes to see the good, to see the church. This is the power of lament. That in the things that bother us at the deepest part of ourselves, in our inmost hearts, we're not alone in that. But we are partnering with a God that transcends time and space. I like Paul Miller's quote on laments where he says that most laments in the Bible are not prayer of surrender, grieving what cannot be changed, but a call to arms. They are the spiritual warfare equivalent of going nuclear. What if we were to pray nuclear prayers about the lack of joy in our lives? What if we were to pray nuclear prayers about Varsity, about Calgary, about our country? What if we want, from the depths of our hearts, for God to shape our world and mold it into his joy? Believe that when we pray these prayers, not only do we become more aware of his joy, but slowly God starts to answer. And slowly he begins to shift and mold the world to change into that one that reveals Jesus. The power of prayer, we can't underestimate that when it comes to joy. I think the second thing that this mindset of already but not yet gives us is that it gives us certainty in our future. Friends, if you are a follower of Christ, your future is secure. That you know where you're going to be come eternity. That when Christ returns, you know that you are going to be up in heaven partying with the rest of us. It is out of this certainty that we have about our future that we can have joy. I mean, just think about the things that the world will say brings you joy. Finances, relationships, your looks, your career, your job, whatever it is. I think all of these things are inherently wrapped up in the future. We worry about the kind of money that we will have in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We worry over our job. What if I get let go? What if I don't have a job anymore? We worry if we'll be married according to the timeline we set. What if I'm not married back? What's going to happen if I'm not? But this is the thing. When our future is secure, that we don't actually have to worry about any of that. That when our future is secure, what happens here on earth matters very little in the face of eternity. That it no longer matters if we have enough money. It just matters if we're using that money to serve the one true living God. That it no longer matters what our job is as long as we are meeting the people in those jobs with Jesus. That there is inherent joy that comes when you don't need to stress about your finances or your career or whatever it may be. And we choose to trust God's timing. Is this incredibly difficult? Yes. Have I gotten this down? Definitely not. But when we have an already but not yet mindset, we recognize that God has brought joy and will bring joy in the future, and that we are going to be a part of that joy in the future. We are one step closer. I think the last thing that this already but not yet mindset gives us is it gives us victory over despair in the midst of our suffering. Perhaps the most mentioned part of joy in the Bible is that we are able to rejoice in the middle of our suffering that we face here on earth. In James, we read that we are to consider it pure joy when we face trials of any kind. Somehow, some way, and I don't fully understand it, but there is a power that we can find through Christ. There's a power that we can overcome the despair of human suffering with. And I think to understand this, we need to again turn to Jesus on the cross. On the cross, Jesus experienced the worst pain and suffering that the world had to offer. And yet he faced it all. He overcame it. He flipped the way that the world worked. We've talked about it before. It's the great reversal. This includes the way that we find joy in our day-to-day lives. That before the cross, the way to joy was putting down other people. It was through oppression. It was through acquiring great wealth. That to have joy, you had to become the greatest. But then the cross comes. Jesus shows us a different way. In Jesus' kingdom, joy comes from giving that up and serving. Joy comes from sacrificing yourself for the sake of the other. Joy comes from pouring out an expensive jar of perfume at the feet of Jesus. This is radically different. It makes no sense. How do I have more joy when I have become lower? Yet again, through an already but not yet mindset, we understand when we have the framework that Jesus has already come and that he has not yet come again, that this is the way we can live. We can live in a way that gives up ourself for the sake of others. And that through this, that's where real joy is found. That fundamentally, this is where Jesus' true source of joy comes from, giving himself up for us. We find joy knowing that joy is not in our material possessions, that joy is not attached to our jobs, that joy isn't even connected to our physical bodies, but rather it's connected to an eternal kingdom with an eternal king that has given up his life so that we might have a relationship with him. This is where we find joy. This is where we can have victory over despair, is when we recognize the deed that Christ has done for us. And we turn around and we do it to the people around us. I don't know where you are this week with joy. I don't know where your joy levels are at. Maybe you know all of this and in your heart you have joy. You are maybe just the most joyful person here. You know that you have an ability to make a difference. You know that you have certainty in your future. And you know, you have felt the victory over despair. Man, this is great news. This is what our world needs. It needs people like you. It needs more people who have realized that they have joy through Christ. My encouragement to you who are in this place of great joy, is to share it. Share it with the rest of us. We need it. I need it. Your church congregation needs it. More than that, the world needs it. We need you to go into your jobs, to go Monday morning in a world that is obsessed with joy, riddled with despair. We need you to go in and share the true source of joy. Think with me just for a moment. Brainstorm. How can you share joy this week? In your families, in your businesses, on the job site, out at high school camp, with your friends. Where can you share joy this week? This is perhaps maybe one of the greatest ways that we might be able to make an impact on the world today. It's by sharing joy. This is one of the greatest ways that we can share the love of Christ, is by going out into this world riddled with despair and offering it a plate of joy. Maybe you are on the other end of the joy spectrum. You've had a rough week. Maybe I'm underestimating and you feel like you've had a rough year. Life just feels like it's beating you down again and again and again. Maybe it feels like all of the joy in the world has been sucked out of you. You have nothing left. My encouragement is to come to your Bow Valley community for support. There are tons of people here who would love to pray over you, to have a conversation with you. We have a prayer team that meets every Sunday morning. Make use of that. The elders, they would love to pray for you. I would love to pray with you. Maybe you just need to pull someone aside in the foyer and have a conversation. Say, man, my joy levels are sucked. I need help. You are not alone. Look around you. There are so many people here this morning that are struggling to find joy in their life. Lean on your community because we want to help you. We want to help you on this journey to find joy. Why don't we pray together as I close?